Well, viewers, those are the headlines and our top focus. U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that the United States is engaging in a trade war with China. This comes ahead of his meeting with President Xi Jinping. Trump has stated that the use of tariffs is a very important tool for the U.S.'s national security. Listen in.
Well, you're in one now. Look, we have 100% tariff. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be exposed as being a nothing. We would have no defense. You know, they've used tariffs on us, but we've never had anybody sitting in that chair that felt the need to do it. And they've allowed us to be $37 trillion in debt, et cetera, et cetera. Tariffs are a very important tool for our defense, for our national security. If we don't have tariffs, we're not going to have national security.
Meanwhile, top officials in the Trump administration have blasted China's major expansion of rare earth export controls as a threat to global supply chains. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has condemned Beijing's rare earth exports, and this, of course, comes as this war continues to escalate. Let's, in fact, listen in to what he has said.
And make no mistake, this is China versus the world. They have put these unacceptable export controls on the entire world. China is a command and control economy, and we and our allies will neither be commanded nor controlled. Not only is China fueling Russia's war, but China's actions have once again demonstrated the risk of being dependent on them on rare earths, and for that matter, anything. If China wants to be an unreliable partner to the world, then the world will have to decouple. The world does not want to decouple. We want to de-risk.
Meanwhile, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian has stated that China's export control on rare earths and related items is consistent with international practice and law. He has in fact stated that China has taken these measures to safeguard world peace and regional stability and to fulfill non-proliferation as well. Lin has stated that asking for talks while threatening high tariffs and restrictions is not the right way to deal with China, and has emphasized that China is urging the United States to address relevant issues through dialogue and consultation basis. With us on the broadcast is Dr. Jayant Menon, Senior Fellow at ISAS Yusuf Ishak Institute, joining us from Singapore. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. We just heard what Donald Trump has had to say. He said that tariffs, imposing high tariffs, particularly these 100% fresh tariffs on China, is vital for US's national security. Would you concur with what the rationale he's put out, or do you think the United States under Donald Trump is wielding tariffs as a weapon to secure its own interests?
I don't think this has anything at all to do with national security. This is basically savings investment imbalance in the U.S. It's nothing to do with unfair trade practices and all the other things that is being alleged. I mean, both countries could do better on their trade practices. China has been very careful in responding, first, always only responding, and second, responding in a very measured way to threats or actions by the U.S. So the complaint now about the controls, extraterritorial controls on rare earths, is simply the Chinese doing what the U.S. started off with, the foreign direct product rule on their super chips, where they had controls on any firm that wanted to actually export them to China. So it's just been very measured, and therefore I think to say that this is a threat to national security is misplaced.
In the meantime, we do know China has augmented the amount of rare earth minerals that it is restricting. The number now stands at 12 out of 17. These minerals are often used in and they're incorporated in sensitive elements such as defense technology and other, tech firms, large tech firms also use these rare earths to manufacture their products. In light of this, why do you think Trump is going down the tariff route, and what sort of impact will it have on the global supply chains? Because now China has retaliated by levying port fees on US flagships as well.
Yeah, so this is all quite unnecessary, right? I mean, rare earths were available to all who needed them. China exported them profitably. Now we have a situation where, this trade war has been escalated. And it's not new. I mean, this started with the first Trump administration, soon after he took office, right? So, these tariffs are not going to serve the desired objective of narrowing the bilateral trade deficit substantially. It will have an effect because what will happen is, the U.S. might be pushed into recession, and the rest of the world might have spillover effects that slows growth somewhat. And that's not the way to go about narrowing these trade balances. And tariffs, I think, have been proven over and over again to hurt the country imposing them more than the country that's subjected to them. So I think we'll see that playing out once more with these very high tariffs, which will be, leaving a lot of shelves in U.S. department stores half empty come Christmas time.
Indeed, as you pointed out, festive season is round the corner in the United States of America. You've also pointed out that the U.S. is seeing a recession as well. We've discussed this before, that there is a government shutdown over there. And is it very likely that this double whammy of both recession and now tariffs resulting in higher costs for consumers could then impact the U.S. economy in the short term? And what sort of measures can we then expect the Federal Reserve to take to mitigate the impact?
Yeah, so I think these things will take a little while to flow through the system. It will not happen immediately. The slowdown in growth will be gradual. But I think I can't see how it'll be anything else, given the commitment to pursuing this disastrous policy from the Trump administration. Trump is in love with tariffs. He's not going to back off. In fact, if anything, I think we just keep seeing them escalate over time. So I think growth will slow. The Fed, will be in a precarious position because we might see inflationary expectations also start to rise. So they'll need to balance the two. But there's already in stream a series of interest rate cuts. Whether this will accelerate is the question. If growth slows sharply, then I think they'll have to accelerate the interest rate cuts and then can worry about inflation separately. But the Fed, as I've said to you before, is first and foremost tasked with the inflation target. So that is a precarious balancing act that they will have to implement.
All right, Dr. Menon, with that, I'd like to thank you for taking out time sharing your analysis with us on NewsX World. With that, viewers, we're shifting focus to the United Kingdom. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has now published evidence that the government had submitted in the now collapsed legal proceedings against two men accused of spying for China. Evidence. Earlier, Starmer had told the Parliament that he would publish in full the three statements prepared by Deputy National Security Advisor Matthew Collins for prosecutors. And the government has published those witness statements. In the first statement itself, Collins had warned in 2023 that China was carrying out large-scale espionage activities against the United Kingdom. A second witness statement written by Collins in February 2025 has evidence for the case over the two men accused of spying Christopher Cash and Christopher Berry, stated that China's spying threatened the UK's economic prosperity and resilience. A third witness statement published in August 2025 has restated the UK's view of the challenge posed by China, stating that the large-scale espionage threatens the integrity of democratic institutions. Starmer's government has faced accusations of killing the case to protect its relations with China, and his Labour administration and the independent prosecutors have been rowing over why it failed to proceed to trial. With us on the broadcast is Dr. Bonnie Yushi Liao, Assistant Professor of Diplomacy and International Relations at Tamkang University in Taiwan, joining us from Taipei. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. What's interesting is these witness statements that have come out have sort of linked the Tory government, the previous Tory government under Sunak, to what we're now seeing as far as this case is concerned. I want to understand from you, was the release of these three particular statements selective in nature, or is more transparency really needed at this point?
Well, it does feel curated. Selective releases can defend a political line while omitting context. The clean fixes publish a full timeline and legal reasoning, redact resources, fine, but show what changed and who signed off. Transparency is cheaper than letting Beijing exploit the confusion.
I also wanted to understand from you then, why exactly is Starmer blaming the previous Tory government stance on China for the spying trial collapsing? Because there have been critics who've pointed out that the Starmer administration is doing so in order to protect investments from China.
Well, this looks like politics, not principle. The previous conservatives tightened the China stance, and the current Labour government wants warmer economic ties with Beijing, obviously. And it's easier to point at the last government than admit their soft pedaling security. But using Tories as a shield doesn't fix the gaps.
Then is a statutory inquiry necessary? Because we've seen a lot of lawmakers in the United Kingdom, especially the Tories, calling for a statutory inquiry.
Yes, short, judge-led, and security literate. Look at how China threat designations, guidance to CPS, and ministerial decisions to interacted. Keep classified bits in closed sessions, but deliver a blunt public summary. That's how you rebuild deterrence and stop this from becoming a partisan food fight.
All right, I'm requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking some other crucial developments, this time from China itself. China's Ministry of Emergency Management has stated that natural disasters in the first 3 quarters of 2025 have caused widespread damage to more than 55 million people and to the country's agricultural sector at large. Now, according to the ministry, a total of 530,000 hectares of crops were damaged. Now, these disasters have resulted in direct economic losses amounting to approximately $30.5 billion US dollars. This is based on current assessments and estimations. Now, the losses were caused by a range of extreme weather events, including floods, droughts, and other natural disasters that swept through different parts of the country. There's, of course, the growing concern regarding the impact of climate change and climate-related events on China's economy and food security at large as well. Still with us on the broadcast is Dr. Bonnie Yushi Liao. At the outset, I wanted to understand from you, how could these economic losses that have largely impacted the agricultural sector and sort of impact the global supply chains as well?
When tens of millions are affected, you get rolling bottlenecks. Mines, rail, and coastal ports slow down, and solar inputs and some metals slip. Food shipments wobble. It won't collapse global trade, but it's a wake-up. De-risk with friend shoring and dual sourcing beyond any single Chinese province, and longer buffers for tier two-third suppliers.
And this is a clear case of agricultural disaster vulnerability. Then in your assessment, what's really needed to build resilience?
Three tracks: climate smart farming at home in China, market tools like real crop insurance and regional grains research, and crucially, credible data. Beijing's opacity turns local floods into global price shocks. If China won't be transparent, others need better satellite crop monitoring and diversified imports to keep food inflation in check.
All right, ma'am, with that, I would like to thank you for taking out time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Viewers, we're tracking some breaking updates coming in. This week, we're learning that global CEOs, including Apple's Tim Cook, are all set to meet China's top trade negotiator, He Lifeng, in Beijing. The high-level meeting would coincide with an increase in trade tensions between China and the United States, particularly over China's restrictions of rare earth minerals, which are used in defense technology and in manufacturing of other technological items as well. All right, viewers, shifting focus to more developments coming in. Now, according to reports, a breach at US-based cybersecurity provider F5 has been linked to state-backed hackers from China. The company has detected the intrusion on the 9th of August and took action to contain the threat. While the company has stated that operations were not impacted, reports indicate that the hackers may have been active in the network for over a year. The US Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency and F5 are investigating this breach of security, but neither party has commented publicly on the Chinese connection. Meanwhile, US government officials have confirmed that federal networks are being targeted by an unidentified nation state and a cyber threat actor is exploiting vulnerabilities in F5 products. F5 CEO Francois Locoh-Donou is personally briefing customers on the breach. Shifting focus to more updates coming in. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has co-chaired the 27th China-France Strategic Dialogue in Hangzhou with Emmanuel Bon, the diplomatic advisor to French President Emmanuel Macron. The two sides discussed strengthening ties, enhancing mutual trust, and expanding cooperation across areas such as civil nuclear energy, aerospace, and artificial intelligence. Both countries also focused on enhancing multilateral coordination, particularly within the United Nations, and maintaining dialogue on global issues like the Russia-Ukraine war and the volatility in the Middle East. Earlier, Wang Yi had also met with Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Álvarez in Hangzhou, where both countries talked about boosting trade, enhancing people-to-people ties and tourism, while marking the 20th anniversary of their comprehensive strategic partnership. And that's a wrap on the China report. Keep watching NewsX World for more such updates. We'll be back after